Hi, Miro. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Amitha.
So let's start with the way some people are watching now by streaming. A big jump was reported this week. What does this say about audience habits?
Well, audience habits are changing drastically in the way they view content. It's shocking, this study by Nielsen that really looked at streaming, but looked at television viewing as a whole, or kind of content viewing as a whole. Americans watch nearly 12 hours of content every single day, whether it's on their mobile devices, whether it's on TV, through games, or hear it on the radio.
Where do they
That's
find
a
the
lot.
time?
It's amazing. So younger consumers, those 18 to 34, basically watch over 5.5 hours on a connected device versus less than 2.5 hours for those over 65. Older consumers watch 50 hours of live TV, traditional television every week, versus 20 hours for younger consumers. So it's pretty intense. But what's funny in this study is that even though all this new content is being developed, people are still watching old content. So last quarter on Netflix, the most important stuff that was seen was Friends, The Office, Grey's Anatomy, and NCIS. The last piece of interesting information is the speed at which all this streaming is happening. People are cutting the cord at a faster rate. Today, over 70% of households have a cable or satellite subscription. Roku says that by 2024, less than 50% will. So we'll stay tuned. This is a big space.
Yeah, it's really fascinating. All these habits and technology are happening at such an accelerated rate. Let's talk a little bit about the devices that people are using that you touched on. A lot of people are watching this on their T-Mobile or Sprint smartphones. The merger was finalized this week. What do people need to know?
Almost finalized. A judge in a lawsuit brought by 13 attorneys general led by New York, the judge ruled that the merger can go forward. The judge felt that T-Mobile, which is going to be the new name of the brand, so Sprint is going to go away. The three things that happened out of the lawsuit, first is that the company agreed not to raise prices for the next 3 years, which a lot of consumer advocates were saying that they would raise prices pretty quickly. Secondly, they agreed to reach 97% of the country within 3 years and 85% of the rural areas, and within 6 years have 99% of the country coverage and 90% of rural areas. So overall, it should be good for consumers. The last thing, the holdup, is the California Public Utilities Commission hasn't given the approval yet on the merger. They are supposed to sometime in the next couple of weeks give their ruling. They'll have a 30-day comment period, and then they'll have a final ruling. So if they kind of say preliminarily okay, it'll go ahead.
Okay. At the end of the day, consumers still will be paying. And we're going to pivot a little bit. So there was a new report this week on household debt. What new milestone was hit?
Wow. The Fed issued a report. U.S. households have hit 14 trillion, not billion, $trillion in debt. This debt is kind of broken down into four big buckets. The first one is home loans and mortgages and refinancings, student loan debt, auto debt, and credit card debt. Now, $9.5 trillion out of the 14 trillion is in home financing. That's actually a positive for consumers because we're in the lowest interest rate environment in generations, and so people actually save money in interest costs by refinancing now. The downside, and when you look at kind of all the delinquencies, you're looking at still the lower end of the economy, lower income to middle income consumers who are living paycheck to paycheck are extending credit, their credit limits to make ends meet. And if there's a shock to the economy and things kind of pivot, those numbers will go up much higher. So those are ones that we're going to be watching over the next number of months.
Okay, Mira Kopik of SDSU and Bottom Line Marketing, thanks so much for being with us today.
Thank you, Amitha.